So I'm going to talk about the art of war. So, I mean, it's a very, very huge topic, and you have to pay close attention to me. My childhood was wonderful. I never wanted to work. So somehow, some way, I ended up becoming the runner of the most dangerous combo of two men that wanted to get into illegal activity. One was an Aryan white guy who was a killer, and the other one was Italian who used to kill more than the white guy. So I figured, man, these two guys are gonna probably become my best friends, and I gotta be real careful with what's going on because two of them against one of me equals none of me. And I had a partner we used to call Bags because I used to make fun of his ear for so long that he grew bags. I used to be like, dude, your ear's chipped, and his whole game was to like rob and steal from his closest fucking friends. I'm like, your ear's chipped, man. They didn't give you an ear at birth, so it's like whatever you going through, whatever you try to do, everyone gonna know about it. So I was real honest with him because he was my partner. Well, anyway, we ended up having two apartments next to each other. I held all the evidence. He hooked up with all the money, so that way we couldn't get popped, you know. And then John, which is the white guy who was the boss, he had this thing where he was 10 years older than us, and he was very, very beautiful, and he was a vegetarian, so he was able to, hang out and party and stay up 3 4 days at a time. And he used to always come over Arya's pad because he's not like dogs, so he'd always go to Arya's pad. And whenever he wanted to like really, really sleep and stuff, he would just come over. And then most of the time, Arya wasn't there because he was bagging his wife, and it was just me. And he said one day, he said, look, man, I need my sleep, so make sure nobody comes here to mess with me. I'm like, okay, well, I'll be right next door. You want me to stay in the house and make sure no one comes? He goes, yeah, because I need my sleep. And so he used to take Xanax. Well, I went next door, and I'm thinking, man, eventually this guy's going to find out about bagging his wife and stuff, and it's not going to be a good deal. So they were the first pioneers of introducing ice into mainstream United States, and they had a head start, so they knew what they were doing. So I always had some at my house for just for whatever. So I took a little bit, just a little bit, and I would go and I would slide my door open, I would slide his door open, I'd go into his room, and I'd say, John, John, John. And like, he wouldn't wake up because he was on Xanax. So I put a little bit in his mouth, and it was so hilarious that he started chewing the little rocks of ice or whatever it was. And then once he figured out in his brain and his mind that the dream was getting picked up, he swallowed it and somehow suffocated himself to go back to sleep through the Xanax. So I'm like, wow, this thing's like science, right? So I came back another couple times, a little bit more, and our work and our gang and our everything was starting to come to an end because too many people knew about it and stuff. And I would put a little more each time because when Bags was at the guy's chick's house bagging her, I would give John an extra day of sleep, an extra day here, an extra day there, so he could bag her and he could dream it with his Xannies and eat. So then, fucking one day, I put a gang of stuff in there, like at least 1.75 grams or 1.50 grams, in his mouth. He stayed up for 5 days dreaming on Xanax and didn't get up. And eventually, he got executed. Bads ended up with his wife, and I ended up broke and living with HIV. But I kept everybody out of jail. And see, the art of war is when you see a swimming pool, you can't you can't jump in it because it's full of chlorine and chemicals, and they clean it with bleach to make it look good. But you could swim around in it. You could splash around in it and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm trying to say is that sometimes in life you have to go against your own organization to figure out where the meat is, to figure out where you could reinvent the product that you're going low on. Because in our business, which was drug dealing, if product went low, that means that the fucking world supply of this and that is like going to zero. So we always had a first-hand info on what's happening and stuff. So I figured, man, I gotta get rid of one of these two guys because the other guy, he's gonna get rid of all of us eventually. So I got rid of the one guy. The bags ended up just being a normal human being, so I got rid of him on my own. And then the other guy ended up doing life sentences for almost taking out half a city. And so I was the main player in the game, and I had to figure all that stuff out by experimenting with doses of this and that and keeping him up away from the bag so he doesn't kill him for hanging his wife and stuff. So eventually the dude got murdered, man, and I got away for free. Nothing ever happened to me, but it was the art of war. It was to get this guy to think of this person, to get that guy to think of this person, to get this guy to think of this and that. And the whole time, you have to be in the pool without anybody knowing you got goggles on and you're snorkeling. So that way, when you get out and throw your goggles on the side, no one's really gonna pick them up. They're gonna think it's used. But you have to first have a first-hand projection of what's going on. And like I said, I knew it was coming to a crossroads, and the next thing you know, I was right. But I had to sacrifice my friendship with my boss so that way he doesn't take out my partner bags and somehow manipulate the whole thing to turn around and get people to do this and that without actually being there. So if you want to go to war against the world, if you want to change stuff, you gotta do it without getting caught. You gotta steal something from that pool, steal some water from the pool without anybody knowing about it. It's the only way. So that's the art of war, and that's how a thief gets away with everything. I was the thief of the whole programming. I was the Bill Gates of our gang. And I saved my partner from being shot. I got rid of my boss so that way he can go and do what he's gonna do without killing people. And I got away without going to jail because everybody was gonna go to jail. So I got away with everything, and I became the world's greatest thief, selling dope and giving it back to my boss. So that way, like, if my boss wants to sell the whole world crystal, and I know that's going to end the world, well, guess what? I'm going to take some of his product. Instead of it going to the so-and-so's house, it's going to come back to my house, and then it's going to go back to his house. I'm going to shove it down his throat. So that way, when he goes to so-and-so's house, he thinks it's free and clear. When he goes in, everybody's sober living. So you have to use your brain and the knowledge of the world of what's going on. I mean, we're so like corrupt right now that they're coming out with everything. They're telling us the truth about everything that's going on that they've been doing for hundreds of years. It's because they're trying to change the stuff around and get that pool to warm up by itself. But if I were to tell you, you got to jump into the ocean and swim from here to Africa, you would say, you know what, you're on drugs and stop smoking that stuff. But guess what? That's the actual solution. If everyone gets into that ocean and swims to Africa, the splashing and the movement and the current of us going together, and then we can help each other from drowning, and all kinds of stuff can happen. But if you just think, oh, Africa's too far, this guy's on drugs, he doesn't know what he's talking about, that's when people like Bill Gates come around. And they mess with the numbers and put an extra zero on an ad and take a minus from a zero and divide the whole world into 22 parts. So first, you need to know what you're doing. Second, you have to make believe in your head that if you ever take anything from anyone, it's because of something good. And third, you can't get caught. And fourth, whatever you take, you have to throw back into the jewelry box. That's why diamonds are a girl's best friend. So hopefully I have said something, fruitful and knowledgeable. Please excuse my vocabulary. I was never educated properly, but this world is coming to an end. So either we go get that tornado and put it in our pockets, or we wait for lightning and wait for a tsunami, which is all propaganda and man-made. Okay, so realize that, don't just go back to work and think everything's gonna be okay, because it's not. You know what I mean? Use your brain, people.